Hello, everyone. It's time for another edition of Off the Hook with Matty D. And I cannot wait to talk to our special guest today. We're going to be talking about fly fishing for smallmouth, trout, and a little side of muskie as well. So without further ado, I want to bring in my special guest for today. You might remember the past couple of episodes, Captain Simone Valencia right here of Current Culture Fly, and a brand new guest today, Captain Mike Rennie of Blue Mountain Drift. Captain Mike, first of all, thank you so much for getting up early and joining us. How are you doing this morning?
Doing great. Actually, this is a sleep-in morning for me, so I can't complain one bit. This is
Right,
nice.
because most guides start their day about 4 or 5 o'clock. You're on the water, sunlight, because you got to be fishing at that point, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I mean, our days start early. Generally I meet clients around 7:30ish, give or take, and then we're on the water by 8 fishing.
And it's a 6 to 8 hour day, going for smallmouth, going for trout. And obviously, right now, the water is super warm. So this is kind of like smallmouth heaven, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, this is a smallmouth season here in Virginia. We have our longest warm water season would be smallmouth. We basically start fishing them March, leave them alone in May so they can spawn and
Right.
fish them all the way through October, November, depending on the water and the weather and things like that. So yeah, we have a pretty long warm water
When I
season. It's
started
great
this
time for it.
this idea here, I talked with Simone, and he said, "I got a guy for us for a smallmouth. He is one of the best in the field." So he talked your way up, Simone. So far, I'm loving what I've been seeing.
Well, Mike is just a guide's guide. I've been on the water with Mike so many times, and it's always an incredible experience. Just where he is, the waters he's working are so different from what I'm working. The way he's approaching fish so different. I learn a bunch every time, and also just Mike has something down that I admire as a guide, and that's his hospitality. Like, he's out making lunches every day, like a specific lunch just for his guest. He wants to know what you're eating. He wants to know how you're feeling. He wants to make that experience as incredible as possible. And I think that, we are in the hospitality, education, and fish catching business, right? And Mike just checks every box super well. So I'm just really happy to be partnered up with Mike. And honestly, every time I get out on the water with Mike, it's just an incredible experience.
And we're going to see some of these experiences because, look, I combed through your Instagram, Mike, and incredible fisheries that you are fishing. And really, I mean, every one of your clients, I mean, it's a smile from ear to ear. You really go the extra mile.
Yeah, well, I mean, like Simone's saying, it's a hospitality thing here first. My goal as a guide is to leave you a more educated angler. So not only can you find success on your own, but you next time you fish with another guide, it's more about just fishing instead of instruction. And teaching brings people joy when they find the things that come together. They make the cast, they make the presentation, they catch the fish.
Right.
Watching all those components come together makes people happy, and that's what I like.
And when you're out on the water, let's talk a little bit about smallmouth bass first. And you're fly fishing for them. What weight rods are you using right now, and what weight tippet are you using here as well?
So this time of year, and mainly all smallmouth fishing, I'm using 6, 7 weights. There's an occasional dip into the 8 weight world, pre-spawn. We're throwing some larger stuff, but overall 6 and 7 weights is what we're fishing. And honestly, I fish 16 pound. There's no reason to fish anything under that. These are not leader shy fish, and I would much rather land a fish quickly and not stress them out, and make sure that client gets that fish of a lifetime than break something off. So
And then when you transition in the fall, or maybe even early spring, to trout, is your weight rod changing and is your leader tippet changing?
yeah, so trout stuff we fishing mainly 5 and 4 weight rods. Definitely a leader and tippet change. Our fishery, we are fishing a wild trout fishery. They're not stupid fish. They're pretty smart fish. They've seen flies. So we fish nothing above 5X generally for me, depending on flows, things like that. If we're having a streamer fishing, kind of situation, we'll move to that 7 weight rod again, and then a little bit beefier line because you're moving a fly faster.
Right.
It's not just dead drifting nymphs and dry flies past a fish, so you can get away with a little bit more. Something that you could turn a larger fly over with.
Got it.
Mike, can you tell me a little bit about the seasonality of your fishery? Because you're fishing year round. You're fishing January 1st, you're fishing July 20th, and you're shifting, accommodating, uh, giving anglers opportunities at every single day of the year, right? So
Yeah.
you can switch very quickly. And Mike was Maddie was hinting at this. You know, you do target trout when on the colder months, then you leave them alone when the water gets hot. Can you just walk us through the seasonality a little bit about how you target, you know, when you move into pre-spawn bass and et cetera?
Yeah, you know, seasonally here in Virginia, you can fish 365 days a year. You know, we're lucky enough to have fisheries that support everything from very warm water to, you know, cold water trout to wintertime muskie fishing, which is great here in Virginia. You know, like I said, our seasons, we have some overlap mainly with that smallmouth and trout seasons. You know, I start smallmouth fishing in March, like we talk about for pre-spawn smallmouth. It's not a numbers game. It's kind of head hunting for some large fish. And then March time frame, we're really moving back into trout. May is a great, fantastic time for trout. If I had to pick my favorite month here in Virginia, I would say April. You know, the smallmouth bass, uh, we fish them up to about April. Then we leave them alone, let them spawn. You know, they have enough going against them being a river system fish. It takes one bad rain to kind of ruin a spawn. So I like to give them every opportunity they can. And the trout fishing here in the spring in Virginia is lights out. So we spend a lot of time focusing on our tailwater fisheries and then some mountain trout stream stuff that we do. And then pretty much June through September is just smallmouth. You know, it's pretty heavy. Got large numbers of bodies of water for smallmouth that I got on. You know, I got on James, I got on some smaller tributaries, things like that. Some other major ones. I occasionally get over the Shenandoah. So we have a great warm water smallmouth fishery. And then as we ease back into that later fall, as those water temperatures cool, we'll start sprinkling some trout back into that. And pretty much end of October, you know, through wintertime is all trout. Muskie, we kind of really target, you know, at least for me, because I'm so busy on the other side, more wintertime. You know, it puts a lot of fish into wintering holes. So if you have a fish that's hard to catch, you know, condensing these fish a little bit more, giving it guaranteed kind of like lies, helps us out a little bit, increases numbers, and doesn't wear out an angler. And we fish muskie all the way up until about March when they spawn, and then back at it again to smallmouth and trout.
So getting back to the muskie for a quick second here, what weight rods? I mean, it's a much larger fish. We'll see some pictures coming up in a bit. Are you going 8-weight rods, 9-weight rods for those?
So we're fishing, you know, my sweet spot I think is an 11-weight rod. You know, you're essentially throwing a full sink heavy grain fly line with, you know, a 13-inch wet gym sock. So you want a stiffer rod that can turn this fly over.
And what you mean by wet gym socks is
a lot of the action's boat side, so it's not the weight rod to land the fish, more so as present a fly to a fish that it's going to want to eat. So 11 weight is generally kind of my sweet spot.
And when you're talking wet gym socks, you mean the size of the fly, right? They are a foot long. Yes. And bulky.
Yeah, it's a big, heavy fly, you know, a lot of deer hair, stuff like that. So right. It holds water. You know, I try to incorporate materials that shed water pretty quickly into my flies to make them easy to cast for clients. But, you know, it's a big fly. So you want a rod that can turn that fly over for sure.
And Simon, when you're at Current Culture, you're tying different flies on this bench here with anglers who come in. You're tying everything from trout flies to bass flies. In fact, last week I think you were doing an Instagram about a popper where you shave a cork.
So this is the Mike Rennie special, and this is the Mike Rennie special, and I think this is probably his favorite way to fish. This is something I've taken from him, and the first time I saw this bug, I just did not believe in it. And
it's good that he doesn't believe in you, Mike. How about that?
Oh, he took me out, man.
I change people's minds all the time.
We put on that bug, and we just got some incredible eats. So, like, most of his fishing this summer is mostly topwater. Mm-hmm. Middle of the day, topwater.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think he was referring to the CK bug because I was just shaving down cork,
Yeah.
which is one of your go-to flies, right? Like that's something
Yep.
that you use pretty much. When do you turn on that topwater game?
So our top water really starts in July. You want to have the food source out first before you start fishing it. June they'll eat top water, but I'd fish more top water bait fish patterns because they're kind of keying into that. But as July comes along, our annual terrestrials are out. Our cicadas are really starting to come out in full force. I've caught 20-inch smallmouth with carpenter ants in their mouth. So, that bug is a great producer for some really nice fish because in these warmer waters where the fish might feel a little bit more lethargic, since we've had some seriously touching 100 temperatures during the day, that water's pretty warm.
Yeah.
So if you don't have to ask that fish to expend a bunch of energy to move to eat something, it's more likely that fish is going to eat. And these topwater bugs are an easy target for these fish because they know it's not going to run away from them. They don't have to chase it down. They just have to wait for it to kind of come to them, gently tip up and sip it in. The bug fishing July through September is pretty much all I do. It's very rare that you'll see me throw a streamer or a crayfish pattern on, July on. That's only if I need to, if those fish are really locked down and not wanting to move much.
When people think of fishing topwater too, they think of like stripping a popper really fast and hard. What you're
Yep.
doing is more akin to fishing a dry fly, right? Something that's just sitting on top, moving in the current with maybe a twitch here, a twitch there, near that structure, which is all just so cool and so visual to see those fish come out of their holes.
Yep.
Yep.
And it's not a subtle trout take.
No.
It just flushes down into the water. It just
That's the
disappears.
best description for it, honestly. Everybody, and the taste can be pretty subtle. Like, I think a lot of people think large fish, big crash.
Yeah.
The larger the fish, generally, the more subtle the eat is going to be. Smallmouth here in the southern range, let's say 18 to 20 inches, is kind of between that 8 to 12-year-old range. That's a pretty smart fish.
Mm-hmm.
So it knows that it can just kind of tip up, gently grab it, and pull it down. One of my largest fish, and I think you guys got a photo of it, basically it was a bug that legs were getting played with by a bluegill. I told the guy just to leave it. The bug just kind of just went under, almost like a bluegill pulled the leg, but the swirl was a little bit bigger. Told the guy set, and giant 21 and a half comes rocking him up out of the water.
And that's a trophy fish, right? Anything over 20 on a smallmouth is a
over
trophy
20.
fish.
I mean, we have a lot of that 13 to 14 range, and that 16, 15 range is there. I'd say that'd be our year gap, really, in kind of my fisheries. But we've been catching a lot of 16s this year, which is nice. So that's the 20 that's the holy grail. That's what you want.
Hey, Mike, I want to go on a little bit here. We're going to come back to smallmouth. We're going to have some pictures up here of some gorgeous browns. Are these majority Virginia fish? And I'm not asking you to give your secret hole away, but are these the western streams that you fish consistently? And if so, the simple answer is yes or no.
Yes, that picture right there, that big brown, that's a wild tailwater brown trout that we have here in Virginia. I really focus on the wild fish. I do work at some private water stock fisheries as well. I think they serve their purpose, but my heart really lies with that wild fish. That's another wild brown from our tailwater as well. Right. We have 2 tailwaters in Virginia that support wild brown trouts, and that's floatable tailwaters. And those are the Jackson and the Smith River. So,
and are you doing, I'm sorry to interrupt, are you, depending on the time of the year, because you said, I think a couple of minutes ago, you like April a lot for trout. And are you doing the early season of mayflies, dry flies, caddis that are coming up, or are you underwater with midges or maybe some beadhead, or is it a mixture of both, whatever the day calls for?
It's a mixture of both. Here in Virginia, unlike out west, we don't have as many strong defined hatches. And we do, you get strong trico hatch, you'll get a strong March brown hatch, things like that. Our tailwaters act a little differently than like a Western tailwater, where if you're talking like Cheeseman, Canyon, things like that, lots of small midges. Our diversity of bug life is fairly big. So that April time frame is, my favorite because we have a really strong caddis hatch on our tailwater. That caddis hatch is great because it gives us good dry fly opportunities along with swinging some wet flies for rising trout. You can kind of cover the spectrum. Catch them on the nymph, catch them on the dry, catch them on the swing.
And not only are you doing browns, but these are some of the most gorgeous rainbows I've seen in my time. And I've been fly fishing for 30 years. So, yeah, this is, that's pretty, my man. That's some pretty fish.
Thank you. Yeah, that's another wild rainbow out of our tailwater here. That one got a little bird action on its back, but I always like that, watching a fish survive something that hard.
Right, right. This would be a great shot if somebody wasn't in the background, but we'll ignore it.
Man, that was a great day.
Yeah.
That
So,
was a good
Simone,
day.
tell me, you've gone out with Mike a number of times.
Yeah.
Explain a day. You did a little bit before about he picks the lunch out, but what is it like on the water with Mike? Is he, just that encouragement and telling you what to do and
Super informative and educational. He's really good about walking you through what is going on in the water at this time to see what it is that we need to accomplish with our presentations, and he fills you in with the why on top of what you should do pretty well. On top of that, you can see his demeanor. He's just a real nasty guy. No, but he's just super calm, super mellow. I mess up. I'm a terrible trout angler. I mean, I'm gonna be real with you. Mike is just super patient and understanding and thoughtful, and it's just a complete pleasure. I mess up a lot on his boat, and he's like, "All right, buddy, let's go on to the next one," and we just go and get another one.
there is a knack to fishing for trout. It's a different thing in itself. Yeah, for sure.
It's delicate
It's-
and yeah.
It's a technical thing, and like especially here in Virginia, once again we're not the West, but we have great trout fishing. It's just different. It's a little bit more technical, and I enjoy that part of the fishery and explaining that part of the fishery, and seeing people find success in a more technical situation than most.
He's also a beast on the oars.
Moving the
beast.
boat, getting into position, turning it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the shots you get are like, they look amazing. They're like planned. But
Right.
I will tell this story. Him and I were drifting with my girlfriend at the time, and she stood up to do something or some other and went in the water. It was late January.
Yeah.
Water temp was 40 degrees, maybe 45 degrees. Really, really cold.
Yeah.
I mean, like, really cold. And we got her back on the boat, and the pace he was making that day, I mean, he saved the day just because he was rowing
Super fast.
Yeah, it was just pretty amazing to watch, getting us through. That was it was a great day before, and then it was a hilarious day after.
Of course.
He was able to like pick out. He's got the time on the water where he can analyze those situations and know exactly what he needs to do.
Right.
Mike, how long have you been guiding for now?
Full time now, it's coming up on 6 years, but I worked a long time. I'm also not only own Blue Mountain Drift Fly Fishing guide for that, but I'm also head guide for Matt Miles Fly Fishing, who's been a fly fishing guide here in Virginia for over 25 years. And I was helping him out with a lot of two boat trips, things he couldn't run, and then it just got to the point where my clientele was pretty solid on my side, and I kind of was like, hey, it's either fully commit or don't. I mean, I grew up fishing here, these waters. My first fishing on fly rod when I was 6 years old with my dad was a smallmouth bass. So I've spent more than 100 days, even when I wasn't guiding, on the water.
And
Now it's looking more to that 200 plus range is kind of what I spend on the water.
And what not a lot of people know is that Mike is an amazing artist and tattoo artist.
Formally, yes.
Formerly tattoo artist, still amazing artist. We do sell some of his artwork at the shop.
Gotcha.
And it's pretty amazing, just fish-related art. And honestly, he still owes me a tattoo.
Oh, okay.
So.
Well, we'll collect that.
We'll keep that hanging for you. So.
Hey, let's get into some of the smallmouth bass pictures here, Mike, if we can. These are some beautiful shots here. I mean, the smiles say it all to me. I mean, incredible stuff here.
Well, like I said, I like watching people catch fish, and I like teaching people how to become more efficient at that and a better angler. And just, showing people a place that they don't get to spend a day in. My office has a great view every single day. Taking somebody that doesn't have as much opportunity to spend outside, I want to give them the best that they can possibly have on a day on the water. I don't control the weather or the fish feeding habits. My job is to adjust and predict and give them the best shot at, that fish of a lifetime for them.
And that is the guide's job, right? Like that is the guide's job is, people find themselves in incredibly busy lives, and putting the time on the water to find success, that's your job. You put the time in the water to get them on the right fly, on the right day, in the right flows, in the right position, and you nail that. I mean, you put that time in the water to where, shoot, we've sent so many people your way that come back to us and they're like, that was an incredible experience. We caught so many fish, and I'm just a beginner. I've only fly fished 10 times before, 5 times before,
Right.
0 times before, and like the whole experience was incredible. Mike is just that's the education portion that I've been talking about, that like he's just really good at getting it done that way.
We have a little short time here with our Zoom with Mike. Unfortunately, we're going to run out of Zoom time here. But I want to get into quick two more shots here if I can find them. Seems like these are great shots. I mean, muskie right there. That's a pretty fish.
Yeah, they're here in Virginia. They're crazy fish. It's probably the hardest fish I guide for. I tell clients, it's like, be prepared to work as hard as you possibly can to possibly see a fish. There's 2 types of muskie anglers, in my opinion. There's the ones that want to check it off the bucks, and there's the ones that love self-punishment, because it's
hard.
It's a grind. But, that's kind of the fun part about muskie fishing, is that you have to put in the time and the work to make that happen. I've had several days where everything comes together and the client's just not ready and either raises that rod tip or doesn't strip set hard enough or whatever it may be, and that fish comes off. But, muskie is I enjoy muskie fishing because I understand that I'm not going out there, catching 20 fish, and it's just a beautiful day on the water generally. But it's definitely a grind for some muskie fishing.
I can't do it, man. It's too hard.
It's all good. It's all good. Hey, in all honesty, Captain Mike Rennie from Blue Mountain Drift, we thank you so much for your time. This has been an absolute pleasure having you on, and give yourself a quick plug on the web if you can.
Yeah, I book year round. I generally stay about a month or 2 out. If you guys are thinking about getting out, do have some space still kind of late September into October for some really good smallmouth fishing still, but you can contact me through the website, Blue Mountain Drift Fly Fishing.
Oh, that was, we lost Mike on that one. I apologize for that. Let me roll back here.
I can continue that thought.
Go ahead,
so
please.
he has the website, Blue Mountain Drift Fly Fishing. You can follow him on Instagram, Blue Mountain Drift. You can also book through the shop, come in. Whenever someone wants to go out for smallmouth fishing, we give them 2 options. Mm-hmm. One is Mike Rennie.
Yep.
The other one is having a really hard day with me.
So
downtown.
we're going with Mike Rennie.
Yes, you should. You should. We do a few trips out of the shop in town, but when we do these smallmouth trips out of the shop, we preface it with, it's an incredibly pressured fishery. It's a very hard to wade river, and you're not going to catch a bunch. You'll learn.
Right.
And if your goal is to learn, we're more than happy to take you. But if you want that incredible day, that fish of a lifetime, you should absolutely go with Mike.
Yep.
And it's just an incredible experience, whether it's for trout, for bass, for muskie. He's just top guide. I look up to him. I look up to his entire program and frame a lot of what I do based on what he does. I think he has a lot of things down that are just clockwork.
And truly, I mean, you saw, I keep saying it, the response from the anglers that are with him, whether it's the first time. I was reading some of the comments on his Instagram page. Some of the people have been with him 3, 4, 5 times, book him time and time again because the experience is so good.
It's so great. That's why he's staying so busy. Mm-hmm. Because people come out with him year after year after year after year. Because he's such a dang nice guy and such a cool guy in general. And just a pleasure to spend the whole day on the boat with, catching fish, right? He nails every part of what I think being a great guide is.
So you said you can book him through the Fly Shop. Of course, Current Culture Fly Shop. The phone number is on the screen. You can scan the QR code. We've left it up there for a while for you. Also, Simone, your Instagram is Captain Simone Valencia, correct? That's your personal?
No, yeah, so I have...
You have so many.
So I have the shop,
right.
And then my Instagram is Captain Sammy Valentino.
Oh, Sammy Valentino, right.
And that is a joke because I managed to convince a 17-year-old that Shakespeare was Italian, and I'm making jokes that everything's Italian.
Okay.
It's a joke, but
I got it.
The Instagram Current Culture Fly has all of our guides. We post for all of these guys.
Yep.
We repost and share their information. So you can also message us through there. You'll find me through there as well.
You do a lot of quick videos, quick lives as well, where you're, like last week, again, talking about a fly that you're tying or what's going on. And, you know, I like the relaxed attitude that you have in those lives to just tell people, hey, here's what's happening.
Yeah.
Easy peasy kind of a thing.
Yeah, fly fishing is just another way to fish, right? Fly fishing does not have to be this complicated, esoteric thing that 12 guys do in Montana.
Right.
You can go to any of the parks that have a lake in Richmond and catch really good fish 10 months out of the year, right? You can drive an hour and catch fish every day of the year. It depends in which direction, different time, but it's not something incredibly complicated. Casting is the biggest obstacle, and we offer free casting lessons on most Sundays. They are limited seats.
Yep.
Because I can't have 20 people. I just don't become a very ineffective instructor. Right. So they are limited, and they do book out every week. But we have seats for this Sunday. All you got to do is give us a call at the Fly Shop, send me an email, send us a DM on Instagram or Facebook, and we'll reserve your seat. We have 4 seats open for this Sunday's casting clinic. If you've ever been curious about fly fishing, come out, get a rod in your hand. You don't have to have your own equipment. Just come hang out, learn a little bit about something new, something a little different. It might be for you, it might not. That's a choice. That's a call for you to make. But it's not rocket surgery.
Right.
I couldn't do it if it was, right?
Yes, you could.
Too kind. Too kind.
Always a pleasure. Once again, Captain Simone Valencia. Earlier we had on Mike Rennie from Blue Mountain Drift. Thank you. And of course, I do thank Mike for his time. And we will see you guys next week for another episode of Off the Hook with Matty D.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Take care.